Nibras Ahmed.
Yes.
How are you, brother?
Good to see you, man. Doing well.
Good to see you, man. What's been happening?
Oh, man, so much. Well, I mean, you know this, but for the viewers, I'm a lecturer in biochemistry. I do research. And research is it's a crazy time to be in research right now, in addition to comedy. Funding situation is kind of changing by the minute, but holding on by the edge of my seat.
What's the go with the funding? Who is funding you mostly? Is it the government?
So most of the research in the US is funded by the federal government, at least most of the good research anyway. And across the board, there's being cuts. So institutions right now are just kind of holding their breath. So there's been like billions of dollars of cuts so far. We'll see kind of what's going to happen next, but it's a tumultuous time for sure.
Damn.
Yeah.
So you could be out of a job before you know it.
Yeah. So I'm going to go to grad school in a couple of months. And already it's kind of changed the process.
Wow.
In the past few months, schools that I was talking to that had a lot of funding are cutting programs, they're cutting admissions, all kind of like on the process in response to what's going on with the funding situation. So my seat is currently okay, but I might eat my words by the time this podcast comes out. Yeah.
It's no good having insecurity when it comes to work. Hey, it's like it's a pain in the ass.
For sure. And I think with like mission-driven work, the thing that sucks is that if it gets defunded, not only is the work affected, but so too is the larger goal. In my case, like cancer research.
Okay, so is that what you're researching, cancer?
Yes.
Specifically, what kind of cancer?
So right now, I'm on a team that does ovarian cancer research. I'm hoping to do broader kinds of cancer research in the coming months. So I'm going to change it up soon.
So how does that even come about? Like, what do you do? What do you start with?
Yeah.
That's probably such a long, ignorant question to ask, but...
No. I think it's a really great question because no two researchers have the same starting point. And for that matter, I think the term cancer research is just so broad, you can't even like put it into a particular bubble. And furthermore, one person's kind of cancer research looks completely different from another person's kind of research. Really, cancer is just a particular problem that researchers can apply their skills to, but those skills can come from any particular angle. It can be in like structural biology or biophysics. Could be epidemiology, looking at policy and healthcare costs. My particular angle is like biochemistry specifically. So what are those molecules that are causing cancer to form? And it's extremely thrilling, engaging work. It's work that I feel it's a pleasure to be able to do. But who knows what it'll look like in a few years.
Damn.
Yeah.
So you're going to go, what did you say you're going to go to a post? Did you say post-grad? What did you?
A graduate school.
Graduate school. So what does that mean? What is that?
In the US, it's different depending on the country. In the US, for biological research specifically, it takes about 6 years. You get paid for the 6 years of work. And you're essentially going to choose a person to work with in that time and essentially try to prove something, discover something new over the course of those years that you're doing research. So the degree is completed when the work is done, when your committee is satisfied with what you've done. But certain kinds of research can take longer. I know people who are doing mouse-oriented work. You have to breed mice for X number of months. And if it doesn't work, you're going back to making those mice bang and making another round. Yeah. I'm doing cell-based work, which can take a varying amount of time. But it's, I think, ultimately really fun. Back to the question of what you're talking about, like what do you do? I think it's strangely similar to like playing Cooking Mama on your DS or even just like baking something. At the end of the day, you're mixing something with something else, doing a series of steps. Maybe you put in like a little oven, maybe you put like an incubator, you take it out, you do another little thing. And so you have to be very technically savvy with your hands, very dexterous, but also you have to know what it is you're doing and how to adjust kind of on the fly when things go wrong. And things can go wrong in a variety of different ways. Could be on like a very intellectual sense of like, oh, my hypothesis was wrong. Could be as simple as, oh, shoot, I just dropped a plate and this plate had cells on it, and I can't do this experiment anymore because I just walked into a wall. That I'm speaking directly from experience. Yeah. So it's, it takes all shapes and forms, and I'm lucky enough to do the research that I find most engaging and fun.
Shit, man.
Yeah.
And have you made any discoveries since doing it? Like, have you had any new insights, or is anyone in your team, or do you know anyone that's...
Well, I've published papers, or I've published paper, singular, as a first author. And though I think true discovery takes time, takes years, takes decades. And so I'm not lofty enough to say that my work has discovered anything new. I think it'll take decades to know like what really is a foundational discovery. And for that matter, I think a lot of discoveries are made, and people don't necessarily do anything with them. Sometimes you discover that this thing exists, and then you just say, okay, and you move on to the next question. And that happens literally every single month. If you get Science Magazine, Nature, CNS, Cell, Nature, Science, those are the main three publications. They publish regular volumes. You can read them. Any page, any paper is probably going to be pretty groundbreaking, interesting discoveries.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you think we will find a cure one day?
I think we've already made tremendous progress over the past 100 years. Cancer is not really one thing. It's a host of different diseases that all kind of look somewhat similar. And so we've already made significant progress on certain kinds of cancer. Other kinds of cancer are significantly more difficult to treat. But you really never know. And I think that's what's so scary about what's happening with changes in funding and research, because people will say, oh, these trans mice or whatever, and like you're doing all this stuff, how is it useful? It's like sometimes you don't even necessarily, this whole argument with transgender mice, obviously not what's happening. But you don't know what kind of discovery will lead to a groundbreaking thing later on until later on. Like the whole genetic basis of cancer was discovered by understanding virology. People thought previously cancer was something that was primarily done as like exogenously induced. Only since the discovery of the oncogene wasn't more kind of concretely proven. No, this is something that happens within someone's cell, as opposed to something that is introduced exogenously. So you really never know what discovery will lead to what. And I think that's both the fun and the anxiety of science.
So then you're trying to discover basically if it's outside influence that affects that cell from turning into cancer, or if it's a lot of inside influences in it was already in their DNA, or,
Yeah. I would say those are questions that people were trying to address maybe like a couple decades ago. I think more recently it's been now kind of recognized that this whole interaction between proteins and other kinds of things within the cell are really where the action happens. Some scientists think the DNA is the most interesting part. As a chemist, that doesn't interest me like at all. I find DNA to be very complicated. But yeah, I like proteins. I like seeing where the action is. They're kind of the main doers of the cell. But I think fundamentally, what I do in science and what I do in comedy is kind of the same thing. In the sense that you take an interesting observation, whether that be, some homeless guys doing something on the sidewalk, or, oh, I have this data I don't know what to do with, and you interrogate that observation. You try to find what makes that thing happen, and you try to find, just understand it on a deeper level and ask questions. And also in the sense that I am bad at both and actively trying to get better. So yeah, I think fundamentally they're a very similar skill set.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So do you, how much of cancer do you think, or do you have a hypothesis or a feeling of how much comes from what we are putting into our bodies, the environment that we're in? Maybe, I don't know if it's just giving you an example, like exhaust fumes or something, or burning a gas stove in your apartment, or eating processed foods. Do you think any of that has anything to do with people getting cancer? Any of the outside influences that we bring into the body? I think when we talk about cancer, it's all a matter of risk factors, right? At a certain point, at a certain age, one can argue that cancer may be inevitable, frankly. The majority of people above the age of 80 or even above the age of 70 will have probably a form of cancer in their body. Whether or not that cancer will cause a person to die prematurely is another question, right? Because if you're 80 and you get cancer, it's like,
maybe don't get chemo. Like maybe, I don't know. I'm not a physician. I'm not the person in charge of prescribing the drug, but there's always this calculation of like, but what about lifespan? What about like your actual like health span, like maintaining that healthiness? So there are risk factors. There are things that can increase that risk, whether that's smoking cigarettes regularly. There are things that can decrease that risk. But at the end of the day, even if you've lived a perfectly healthy life, you could still get cancer, right? And for that matter, you could still get hit by a car.
Yeah.
Right. So smoking a cigarette is not something I would recommend as someone who works in cancer biology, but I wouldn't be honest. I wouldn't say it's kind of fun sometimes and maybe a little bit of fun. I don't know.
Yeah. It sucks that we don't know. Like we kind of know, but we don't know. I wonder also how much of it comes in from your mind and like, you know, bringing negative energy into your space, or if you're a negative person and you're constantly thinking that there's something wrong with you, or you're constantly looking at life like it's this thing that is awful. I wonder how much that can, you know, turn your body against you in the end as well. Like the more spiritual aspect is, there's got to be more than just one thing.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, I'm not the most spiritual person, but I think one could even argue, like, is that negative thinking the result of something underlying, right? Like maybe there are all of these external factors, whether it's maybe you're in a stressful time, you're eating a lot of sugar. That sugar, I recently was reading about something called glycation, which is a process that can absolutely exacerbate underlying health conditions as impacted by how much sugar that you're consuming. It's a biochemical reaction.
Wow.
But could that, you know, lead to changes? And like, you know, these things are so complicated. I think it takes either the dumbest or the smartest biologist to say things for certain.
Yeah.
And I'm in the uncanny valley of, I don't know. Yeah. Of God fucking know.
Now, when you're doing the research on stuff like this, are you ever getting like real people with real cancer coming in and testing them, or are you getting samples and stuff of like, can you explain that to me? I'm a little interested.
Totally. So again, this depends on the kind of work. The work that I was doing previously, I didn't deal with patients at all. I was using like an established cell line of an established understood cancer that I was trying to learn more about. That cell line was obviously from a patient at one point, but like everyone uses the cell line, the SF188 glioblastoma cell line.
Gotcha.
The cell lines I'm working with now are derived directly from patients, and we've gotten samples from those patients. So these are samples that might be from local hospitals, and that's why, you know, regionality is something that's especially important in research, because physical proximity to these hospitals will determine what kinds of patient samples you can get. So in the lab that I work in now, we obtain patient samples from local hospitals. They're resected, it's a certain kind of cancer, and then we try to turn it into a cell line, and we essentially try to grow that cell line in 3 dimensions. And the hope is that one day, rather than a single patient trying out 1 million different cancer drugs, you take that cell line, you take a sample from that patient, you're able to grow it, let's try it in 20 different dishes, try it on those, and then we can see which drugs will work best from that, so the patient goes through less.
How does a cell that is normally growing in a body grow in a dish? And how does the cell, is this, I don't know if I'm asking the right way. I'm trying to understand it totally. Because I obviously don't do science. But if that is what's happening, then how does the cell in the dish, if that is what it is happening, get its nutrients to actually be able to grow? Because surely it needs, I would have thought a cell would have needed the body just to fuel the cell.
Totally. That's not like a dumb question or naive question at all. And in fact, I think some of the best research questions are very kind of fundamental. It's like, this is a crazy process. Are we sure we're like doing this right in the first place? And one, I think cells need surprisingly not as many things as we thought to survive. Glucose, so sugar, it's basically like sugar, salt, a variety of different like growth media conditions. But fortunately, the work has been done to actually recapitulate that in a little bottle that we can do. Now we're kind of up to this like next level of complication where it's like, okay, maybe you can have this kind of cell growing in a dish based off of what we know, but how accurate is it really? And is the cell dependent on its broader environment? Maybe it depends on the kind of tissue that it's in. I mean, of course we know this, but it's a matter of how much does it matter in trying to solve the things that we are trying to solve. And so, yeah, that's an ongoing question is like, can you reconstitute these tumors in a more accurate way? And would that help understand cancer more? And so you have scientists on all different parts of the field, right? You have those that are trying to figure out new diagnostics, those like in the lab that I'm currently in, trying to figure out new different, like even strategies of treatment entirely. You have those that are discovering targets, what makes this kind of cancer this kind of cancer. You have those that are discovering how a cell works on a very basic level with the hopes that it might help cancer. So you really have researchers from all different angles, and you need all of them because you really don't know what will work.
Is there any synchronicity between each researcher? Like, if you're doing research on this particular thing in your university, and then someone else is doing the same thing in another university, is that not a bit of a waste of time if you've got too many people doing the same thing? Like, does research get spread around a little bit? And is there some sort of like common denominator in that research where you can be like, all right, there's not a lot of emphasis put on this particular thing at the moment. Maybe we'll lean into that rather than let these guys keep going with that. Or is it not really work like that?
Well, I would say both are important. Of course, you do see a lot of, so there's always a risk of scooping in research. Scooping is basically when you're investigating something, someone else is investigating a similar thing. They discover a similar thing, could be groundbreaking work, could not, and they kind of rush to publication. And you try to get that published as fast as possible. The most recent, I think, famous example of that is with like the CRISPR technologies. Yeah. That is like more related to like intellectual property, but this basic idea of like who gets credit when you have similar overlapping discoveries or when one discovery builds on another. With the CRISPR stuff, it's more about someone discovered something, the basic technology that makes CRISPR work, and then someone took that.
What's the CRISPR in a nutshell?
So basically CRISPR in general are a class of enzymes that work by cutting specific parts of proteins. The CRISPR that we know as like the technology is an application of those enzymes that allows you to control what kinds of genes are or to introduce new genes to be expressed.
I feel like I've heard of that word. Where is that word used a lot? Is it in research or
CRISPR
is it IVF? Do they?
I don't know about it in like IVF. Okay. I know about it through the context of like gene editing and research. Okay. But yeah, like that came from literally someone discovering this kind of system in like cells that were not human and then them eventually translating it into cells that were human, right? So this again just feeds back to that idea that we never really know what will change something. But that doesn't mean it's not worth it. Yeah. And so I think for that reason, like duplicating research is actually somewhat important. I think a lot of scientists are scared to do that because it gives them less credit. But I think duplicating research or redoing experiments is always critical. They say, I think it's like 50 or less than 50% of research in top journals is even reproducible at all. And that's, I think, scary to a lot of people.
Is that just because what they've done is so wild and it's so accidental?
Yeah. Well, there's so I've heard it described to me as like science is like stringing together a series of unlikely events. And so any basic science discovery should be taken. One, I don't even know if necessarily the general public would glean a lot of information from basic scientific journals. I think it's, read at your own risk kind of thing. But science is like a gun in the sense that like you can use it to kill people or help people. And ideally a license or some kind of credential is to help make sure you're using it in the right way. So I think duplicating research is important because we go in with the idea of like, you don't know what's reproducible and what's not. And I think when you first hear that statistic, for me, it was like very discouraging, but in a glass half full mentality, it's like, that makes it amazing that like the best science is reproducible, right? Nothing is better than what is truly happening. And so it just makes you appreciate those groundbreaking discoveries even more.
So what do you think about people that are trying to create viruses and create, the worst case scenario catastrophes in a lab?
Yeah.
And then to see if they can then come up with a a vaccine or something to try and fix that thing. You know,
Yeah.
you know that a lot of that was happening. People have reports of that happening with COVID and that sort of stuff. Like they were trying to, if it was a lab, they were trying to make it in a lab, and then they were trying to figure out how to basically cure it.
Yeah.
And they, so people are, and there's a lot of this science going on with like chemical weapons and that sort of stuff. Is that bad science? Like, is that? I feel like that's, I don't know if you don't want to talk about this as well. That's
no,
fine.
I mean, so I would say that's a good question. It is outside of my narrow field of expertise, but I would say that one, I have not read enough to know if this lab leak theory is plausible or not. I would say upon hearing it, it seems unlikely for sure, but I've not read primary research to say that it is. Like, so I'm not the expert on this, but I would say it's like unlikely on the face of it. Now, I've made viruses in my lab. Like you'd make viruses as a thing to do. Like it's just a technique that is being done.
Wow. Okay.
Like, and it's something, so when I made my virus, like everyone makes viruses. It's not like a, this evil thing. So when I'm making it, it's like you have these 3 different vectors that contain genes that are important for that viral assembly. That's what you call this entire thing. And they take these exercise precautions of like, okay, we store these 3 genes separately, kind of like nuclear codes, so that you can't kind of like put them all, so that you can't just like mix them together in a beaker and just have, things happen. And it's a relatively routine thing. Now, am I the person to say certain research is worth it or not? I would say it depends on the agenda of this particular lab, of the funding source, where it's going to. But I think I will unequivocally always say that more knowledge is better than less knowledge.
I hear you.
And so long as we are following the proper safety protocols, why not? Right.
I mean, I get it. Like when I know very little about science, but when I did some science in high school, we'd go and scrape surfaces and then transfer that onto a petri dish, and we would be going around trying to scrape like the toilets and all the things that we felt were really filthy because we wanted to see what bacteria would grow. It turns out a lot of the time there was more bacteria on things that weren't what you would think as filthy.
Yeah, like your phone.
Exactly.
Right? Like your phone, like your pillow, like I mean, like toilets are that's a classic example of like, oh, actually your pee kind of cleans the toilet.
Yeah.
A little bit, you're like, oh, huh.
I remember looking at the toilet petri dish. I was like, what? I thought this is going to be a fucking jungle. Like,
and even for that matter, it's like, it shows you how innocuous a lot of these things are and like how we just kind of like deal with them on a day-to-day basis. Like, I was even like doing some reading about how like we shower way too frequently. Like think about it. Like when we didn't have Head and Shoulders when we evolved, like the shampoo. Like we don't have shampoo and conditioner when we evolve. Like we've gone most of our existence without having these things. And these things that we've come so accustomed to and think as integral, are they actually that useful?
Yeah, I don't know.
Who's to tell you? I'm not telling you don't shower.
No,
I think from a brown person, I should never say that. But like, it's more so in the sense of like, how important is smelling like lavender really?
I've heard about the shower thing. I've got a friend who doesn't wash his hair. I met him traveling.
Is it like an Aussie thing?
No, he was Israeli. He's like, I don't wash my hair. He's like, I figured out that if I just don't wash my hair, it actually ends up just cleaning itself. And then I've read something, and I don't know if this is true, but I read something that hair does have a self-cleaning mechanism. I don't know if that's true. I think it might be some sort of the oils or something in your scalp or whatever. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Obviously, you would still have to brush your hair. But I always wondered that, like, what did ancient tribes like wash? I was actually having this conversation the other day. Did they rub did the Aboriginals in Australia rub eucalyptus leaves in the water and I don't know, did they?
It's possible.
But if they did, it wasn't twice a day.
Yeah, if they did, it certainly wasn't twice a day. They sure were putting hand sanitizer on, that kind of stuff. So like what level of innovation is actually changing things, I think is a really important thing that not just scientists should consider, but people as a whole.
What's your view then? So I don't know if you probably don't know specifically, but I have heard that there's the levels of like autism and stuff in kids is higher now than it was in the 50s by like a long way. Yeah, something like 70 or 80% higher numbers than what it was. Don't quote me on those numbers, but it is a lot higher. Autism, there's like, ADHD, all those sorts of things, those sort of mental, I guess, are they called mental illnesses? I'm not really too sure.
Yeah.
What's your view on that, on the increase on that sort of stuff in the last couple of decades?
Yeah, it's definitely because of vaccine. No, it's definitely because of vaccines and shampoo. That's my thought.
Head and Shoulders.
Yeah, Head and Shoulders and Johnson and Johnson. Anything with an ampersand, stay away from it.
Lube. It's definitely lube.
It's condoms. That's what I tell everyone I see. But it's the condoms. It's just science. It's just science. Well, I think with, anytime you see an increase in something, there's one of two different things that can change. One is the actual increase in incidence of that thing. It's like, are more people developing ADHD? But there's also on the other side, the surveillance of that thing, right? Which is, are we also becoming more aware that this thing exists in the first place?
Yeah.
Right? So in the case of autism, for example, historically, a lot of the research that has been done from a male perspective, understanding how people who have XY chromosomes develop autism. Autism can look very different in women and people who are assigned female at birth. So we are learning more about autism in women now. And so a lot more women are getting diagnoses of autism later on in life. And these are people who oftentimes you would not look at and say, autism. Hopefully, I don't look at anyone and say, unless it's James Patrick, previous podcast guest. No, but
imagine that you're walking down the street, autism.
Sorry, I'm doing research. You know how it is.
I've had 2 incidences in the last 2 weeks of guys, like the schizophrenic guys on the trains yelling at me like this. I was just walking past with some friends last Saturday or 2 Saturdays ago. And this guy walks past, he's sort of staggering. He looks at me and goes, "You're gay."
That's kind of a compliment. Yeah. To be visibly gay is kind of awesome. I think I would feel awesome if that happened.
And then someone else said something yesterday. I can't remember what it's, but I was like, "Damn, that's funny." Dude,
that would make my week. Yeah, that would make my week.
Autism.
Yes, that's what you said back. And you guys just made out.
He's my new husband.
Yeah, so sorry, I think back to the ADHD autism question. With regards to autism, I don't know specifically. But I think we are definitely getting better at understanding what it is, autism is. And with regards to ADHD, I think there's a lot of emerging research that the answer is we don't know. Like, we are getting better at determining what it is, but in the same vein, we also do have all these exogenous variables, such as the phone, right, that do fracture people's attention. And so it can present as something that looks very similar to ADHD. I'm not a psychiatrist. I don't know. So the answer is it is oftentimes both, right? Both an increase in incidence potentially, and also an increase in awareness and surveillance. It can be both. With autism, I don't know. With ADHD, there's arguments for both.
Also, I'm no scientist, but I do like a little bit of a conspiracy theory.
Love a conspiracy theory.
But I mean, you cannot tell me that if you're going to be spraying insecticides, herbicides and stuff on all our fucking food, you can't be telling me that that's not going to have some sort of effect to the human species over time. I mean, it's literally spraying poison. Like, I'm not. Yeah. I don't know if that is anything. I have no fucking idea. But I just as a person with a bit of common sense, you can figure out that putting poison on your food is probably, the outcome is probably not going to be good in the end of the day.
Look, I think
I don't know if any of that has to do with that, but I'm just saying, like, it can't be fucking good.
Ultimately, could be good, could be bad. Like, good in the sense that if it increases available, like if it increases the accessibility of nutrient dense food and increases that access to people who otherwise have not had it, that's
true.
A net positive.
That is
right?
true. You're looking at it on both sides. I get it. Yeah.
So like you don't really know. And for that matter, going back to our earlier point where it's like, and if you get hit by a car, what does it matter anyway? Right? So like pros and cons. I love a conspiracy theory as well. But ultimately that's just the start, right? You just have to tackle it from every possible angle.
It is a shame though.
Yeah, but conspiracy theories are fun.
Yeah.
My favorite one is that mattress firm is a money laundering scheme.
I haven't heard that.
It's like, have you ever seen anyone in a mattress firm?
No.
No. And there's like certain towns where there's like 2 mattress firms like a mile away from each other.
Yeah.
Makes you think.
Yeah.
Maybe it's in the maybe that's where the autism's coming from.
Maybe they're breeding autism in there. Damn. Just to sell more mattresses, get more people bedridden and sleepy.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if that's an autism thing. Dude, I'm like, do I have it? I'm like, new mattress sounds pretty good right now, actually.
A nap sounds really good too. Damn. Have you seen the new discovery, if it's real, of the cylinders that are coming underneath the Egyptian pyramids?
No. What is this about?
Damn. You've got to see this.
Yeah. Jamie, pull it up.
Jamie, where are you? I feel like I want to show you for 2 seconds. No, fuck it. I'll explain it. So what they've just discovered, they've used this technology, this new radar technology, and it's from a satellite up in space that can get deeper into things and go through the ground and go through more solid objects and get a sense of where, tunnels and passageways of things are. And there's these under each pyramid. I can't remember if it's under one pyramid there's 8 or one pyramid there's 4. I think there's 2 pyramids, and under each pyramid there's 4 cylindrical piers or piles, essentially, that go 2,000 feet under the ground.
Wow. What? That's fucking
which
crazy.
would make them the second largest vertical building in the world if you were to count height. The next highest one is a building in Abu Dhabi or Dubai.
Yeah. The Burj Khalifa.
Something like that.
Wait, and are these columns like
They're-
natural formations, or are they like
They don't look to be. They look to be spiral.
Holy
There's like a
shit.
spiral column
That's
that goes
crazy.
down 2,000 feet. And then under the ground, then those 4 columns meet in this chamber. And I may be butchering this, but I think it was a mile or 2 miles wide, 2 miles by 2 miles, like square chamber.
Oh,
So it's literally a huge underground city. I mean, fancy that.
that's insane. No, that's mind blowing. And I think oftentimes
They look like it looks like an arrow, essentially underground. If you visualize it, it looks like an arrow, like the pyramids, the arrowhead, the columns, and then the.
That's crazy. I mean, like oftentimes we think that we do some fancy shit in this day and age, and I don't know, these Egyptians and Greeks and ancient Indian civilizations, they've been doing some crazy shit for a while.
Well, I mean, this imagine if humans built this. The building of these would have gone on for many, many generations. This would have been. I mean,
And
I don't even know how they.
A lot of slaves.
Yeah.
Which we were against.
No, but I mean, this would have been. This would have, if this is the case, and it was built by humans. I mean, it must have been built way before we know mankind, like way before anything that's been documented that we know of. Like since, I mean, I guess when did there's, what is it, like a couple of thousand years, a couple of thousand BC is probably when humans have a bit of a grasp on history of and some sort of ancient civilizations
I think
and stuff like
the earliest
that.
example was in the Fertile Crescent with like farming. I believe, I don't know the exact time point.
Yeah. But that to me would show that there has been another whole civilization like way back. Like, I don't even know how far, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years.
For sure.
And it would have taken, I mean, I've been in construction my whole life. I can't even imagine how they would have done that.
Yeah.
Like they've dug these piers through the water table as well.
Oh,
So is it an underwater city? Like,
yeah.
I don't know. The water
That is crazy.
Yeah, man. Look it up when you get out of here.
Yeah, no, I'll check it out.
It's-
Like, I don't even know how to comment on it because I'm like flabbergasted.
It's so fucking interesting.
Yeah. So what does the construction worker in you say? What does the construction manager Cam say?
I honestly don't know how they would have done it. I don't know. I can't imagine.
Yeah. I mean, there was like even that like earlier problem where people wondered how they moved the blocks in the first place.
Yeah.
And that was like such a tiny problem relative to this. They find out that like, oh, they put water underneath it and they moved them on these like little sleds. But to find out that there's pillars through a water table is pretty like
and this
insane.
massive chamber. Like, and then what were they doing down there? What were they doing down there? I shouldn't whisper because then no one can hear me. What were they doing down there? I just want to know. I mean,
it's Pizzagate. Yeah. It's Pizzagate. It's Hillary Clinton. She was down there making pizzas.
But a lot of people say that the pyramids was a form of like energy creation. You know, Tesla apparently had a theory that the pyramids were used for creating energy. I don't know. I've got no idea.
I don't know. I'm not much of an engineer, but I'd be curious. Like that would be like incredible.
Something in me feels like are they trying to? Is it something to tap into the energy of the ground? I'm not too sure. You know,
I don't know. I think thermal energy is pretty hard. There are so many things I couldn't imagine that people would be able to do thousands of years ago, and yet it has happened many, many times.
Yeah.
So I don't even know. Like,
yeah.
I would just, I can't even start with a guess as to like what it could be. I think the simplest explanation is just a pure demonstration of, because we fucking can, we're gonna do it.
Yeah.
And we're gonna say it's to please the gods.
Yeah.
And like maybe it what? Like to please the gods, right? To like make this kind of thing. So nothing's a bigger motivator than the fear of God itself.
That's true.
And nothing's a better doer than a lot of slave labor.
Yeah.
So,
a lot.
Yeah.
Damn.
They didn't have unions in Egypt.
They might have. Yeah, damn.
Yeah, that's incredible.
I hope we know one day.
Who knows? It could be much closer than you think, right? They just recently discovered a new mitochondria. That's
really
new scientific discovery. Yeah.
So what does that mean for mankind?
We don't know. Like that's again, it feeds back to it's like we don't know how like mind blowing it could be, or maybe it's not. I highly doubt it's nothing, but like we don't know. So we'll see. And every single or like. In different cell types, there's different kinds of mitochondria. I won't speak too much about that because it's so cutting edge. Like I couldn't even start. But like, yeah, essentially there's like two different kinds of mitochondria that we know about.
Damn.
Yeah.
I know that the mitochondria has like all your DNA imprint on it. Basically,
that's the nucleus.
Isn't the mitochondria where it's like basically got like different DNA codes that essentially make up a human as to what
the mitochondria has DNA in it, but most of your DNA is in the nucleus.
Okay,
that's a separate one.
Okay.
Yeah. But increasingly interesting though is that there might be communication between the two. So basically, like when the first sophisticated higher level cells formed, like oxygen was thought to be like a toxin in the atmosphere and prevented life from forming. And there's this theory, it's called like the endosymbiotic theory. I mean, it sounds like a conspiracy theory, but there's a lot of very interesting biology behind it where it's like there was this one organism that actually figured out how to use oxygen in a way that made energy. And there was another organism that said, that's a good idea, I'm gonna fucking eat you. And then absorb that other thing and they became one unit. That unit became a cell. That thing that figured out how to use oxygen, the mitochondria, which is why it has its own set of DNA. And that outside cell is what we know as the cell now. Yeah.
So does that mean that if something has picked up something from eating something else, for example, if that was the case, does that mean that when we eat meat or eat vegetables even, are we picking up the mitochondria and DNA of something else and then it's becoming a part of ours?
When you eat anything, right, your body is going to break it down in a variety of different ways, whether that's a protein, whether that's fat, whether that's DNA, how that DNA would make its leap into being integrated into a cell and being expressed in a genome. I would say highly, highly unlikely. Much more unlikely that your body would just break it down.
Damn.
And
so
just use it for
I
its
can't
pieces.
like, eat eat kangaroo, just solely kangaroo, and then just be like a really good high jumper in 100 years' time.
That might be the most Australian sentence you've ever said.
Damn.
It's like Australian Mad Lib. I cannot.
So, Nibras.
Yeah.
I watched you at the comedy roast.
Oh, yeah.
The comfy comedy roast. I watched it the first one. You fucking killed.
Oh, thank you, man.
So funny. And it was from that point that I was like, Nibras, you got to come on the podcast.
Oh, thanks.
So you're really, really funny. What how did you even get into comedy? Like what was your journey?
Oh, it was being horribly depressed. I feel like every comedian has like a coming to God moment, except it's like trying an open mic. And I think for me, I had graduated college. I had lived by Comic Strip Live, a comedy club in the Upper East Side that you're familiar with for sure. And I had just broken up with my like long-term girlfriend, and I had so much time. I was like trying to figure out what my next stage in life would be. I'm okay. I was like, why the fuck not? Like, I was so lonely. Like, I want to just connect, like, to see people. I went up at my first mic, and I remember when I was there, this woman had gone up. She did a set, and she was like, yeah, like when like she was a former model, the person who actually I battled in that roast. That's so funny. She had it not been for her, I actually might not have ever started stand up.
Really?
Because she does a set at this open mic, the first open mic I'd ever seen and participated in. She has this joke where she goes like, "Oh yes, when you look like this in the middle of school, no one's going to say you should be a scientist." Like when you're 6 foot tall, symmetrical face in middle school, no one's going to say you should be a scientist. And then another comedian had gone up after, another 6 foot tall, super tall comedian, you would know, Peter Stewart. And he goes, "That's weird. I was also 6 foot tall, and people told me you should only be a scientist." And so I'm butchering both of their jokes, but I afterwards I went to Peter and I was like, "Dude, I'm a scientist too. Like, what do you do?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm not a fucking scientist." "What are you talking about? That was just a joke." And he goes, "But I'm running an open mic. You should come." And then I went to the first ever comfy comedy open mic, and that ended up being like the group of friends that I stuck with, you know, to this very day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, and it's a true addiction. I think once you just make it over that hump, once you get your first laugh, it's like, it's extremely hard to put down. And it's something that will always kind of like keep me going. And whether or not, like, you know, maybe I do another kind of creative endeavor later on, but it's a muscle that I will always have, and I'm glad to have developed for sure.
Yeah, it's so fun.
Yeah.
It's so hard as well. It's so difficult.
I think that's what makes it fun.
Yeah.
Is like, you know, in an experiment, you're doing it in a lab. It's like, okay, you have this many number of variables you're testing, everything's so precisely tested out. When you're doing a comedy set, there's an infinite number of variables almost. Is it, you know, how much am I pausing? Is it what I'm wearing even for this joke? Like, is it the audience? Is it the time of day? Is it like, you know, there's so many different nested variables there. For me, every single set is a little experiment. I have my like, even my little controls, that's my opener, that's my closer, maybe a joke in the middle that I know how well it's supposed to do, so that if my controls don't do well, the other ones I know will be tanking as well.
So it's very methodical. You're like attacking at it in a very scientific brain in a way.
I try to.
I think it's great.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I'm not like out here like writing hypotheses for every set. Most of the time, I get a little fucked up. I write a few things on a Post-it note and I go up, but inherently always has that structure of I'm keeping in mind when I'm doing my control joke and when I'm not, and like how it's supposed to go.
Interesting. So then what is your like main writing style? Like, do you just said you write a few ideas on a Post-it note and go up. Is that more like, so you won't write the whole thing out word for word? Like, what is your style? Talk me through it. Yeah,
I think it's something that is always changing. And I think even literally as we're talking, I'm experimenting with other ways of writing. But basically, I write down a few words that convey an idea. And I look at it and I just kind of explore it on stage. I kind of let my brain like take it like where it needs to go. And I try to add I try to add as much structure as is necessary, which is to say not a lot, because I think if things are overly written or overly rehearsed, for me, with my style personally, I don't think it works very well. And I think it works better if I bite it, if it doesn't feel like I'm selling something. It just kind of feels like I am saying something that is true to me on stage. And so most of my jokes, people will be like, oh, haha, like you've heard my set maybe a time or two, and I will talk about things that sound insane, and people will assume that they don't happen. And I kind of let them ride with it, but like in reality, a lot of the things I talk about in my set are pretty true.
Yeah. Well, I think that's where the best comedy comes from, a true place.
For sure.
100%.
It's about interrogating like a real emotion. Again, even connecting science and comedy is like nothing is more interesting than the truth.
Yeah.
Right. Whether it's a study or it's an emotion that you're feeling in a comedy set.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think you dance the line really well. I think you're a very good joke writer.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. And, having folks like you in the comedy scene, it really adds like a lot of life to it. I think comedy can be quite dreary at times, but there is like this camaraderie, this almost like collective hazing process.
Yeah.
I think we're all better for it.
Definitely.
So long as, you don't let it ruin your life.
Yeah. Don't go home and kill yourself.
Yeah.
But it is hard. And you're right. There is a hump you have to get over. And I think unfortunately, I don't think that hump ever goes away. Like, I think there's the hump of the initial hump. All right, it's like, all right, I'm in this. I'm addicted to this. I'm doing it. But then you sort of develop a new hill that you've got to climb over, and a new hill. It's like the pursuit never ends.
Yeah.
And that's where I think it's probably shakes out a lot of people, because it's not like when you do your work, your Monday to Friday, you can kind of go to work, knock off, and it's done.
Yeah.
And you can kind of put that to rest for the rest of the afternoon. Whereas comedy is never kind of like that. The sense I'm getting is it's just this beast that just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and you just want more, and you want to be better, and you want to write better, and you're surrounded by all these people that are getting better. So you've got to get better, and it just...
Exactly. It's this like virtuous, anxiety-inducing cycle that feeds on itself. And I think if you ever get to a point where you're like, I know what the fuck I'm doing, that's when you're going to lose it.
Yeah.
That's when you're not going to have this muscle anymore. And again, like not to keep on bringing everything back to science, but for me, the parallels are exactly the same. Where like when you're doing academia, it's all about continuing to improve, continuously doing something new and interesting. You can't copy someone else's research. You can't just clock out and, say, all right, I'm just going to half-ass this project. It's like, no, every single day you're discovering something new. Every single day there's new talent. There's new people positing new theories. And so it's a similar kind of rat race between the two. And it's a similar rate of success where there's like maybe a less than 1% chance that a new joke works out, a less than 1% chance that a new kind of experiment works out. But that makes those times that it does work out like truly a miracle and something worth trying to replicate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear you. So where are you from originally? You from New York?
Yeah, from Long Island.
Oh, damn. So you've grown up here your whole life?
Yeah, and I went to school here in the Upper East Side, and I teach there now. And I think I will be like a New Yorker for life.
Yeah.
Much to my dismay.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No, it's awesome. I mean, I feel incredibly privileged to live here. Now my family is here, and it's awesome. Like just be able to see like my family on the weekends and to like take a 30-minute train ride and feel like a world away. It's incredible to be able to have that like independence and also support network, both in the city through comedians, through scientists, and also outside of the city through my own family.
Yeah. And is your parents from India or one of your parents?
They're both from Bangladesh.
Bangladesh, nice. And when did they migrate to America?
I want to say the 1980s, either mid or late 1980s.
So you're kind of your first generation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're sort of like Nico. I think Nico is the same.
Yeah. And as are many New Yorkers. I think.
A lot.
Yeah.
It's
totally.
Extremely multicultural, New York. I love it.
Exactly. Like I am incredibly spoiled. I think I grew up even in Long Island kind of has like a notorious reputation for being like waspy. Or like even just white broadly. It's one of the most redlined places in the US, to the point where it's like my parents, when they're looking for certain neighborhoods to like buy a house, they were kind of suggested neighborhoods with larger Asian representation, which is their way of saying, we might not show you every white neighborhood.
Wow.
And we saw apparently they had seen the white neighborhoods and they were like, yeah, maybe we're going to stick to what we know a little bit better. And so I grew up even in Long Island in a very like multicultural environment. I went back there for career day and I was like, you guys don't know how lucky you have it.
Yeah.
And then I went to school, and I went to a public university, and similarly, extremely, extremely diverse. And teaching there is an exceptional privilege, I think.
Wow. So how does the public university system work in America? Is it essentially free?
No. Yeah, so different states handle it differently.
Yeah.
For example, the University of California system is a beast. It's enormous, and they also put out an incredible amount of research every year. And so there are federal grants that are issued to every single state. The actual structure is beyond my pay grade a little bit, but different states handle it differently. So in New York, there is the city system and there's the state system. So there's SUNY, State University of New York, CUNY, City University of New York. Both, I think, get their funding directly from the state. And they allocate it differently. So CUNYs tend to be a little bit cheaper, about $6,000 a year, I think, super cheap. SUNYs can be more expensive, up to maybe like, I want to say 30, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's still vastly better than if you go to like a private university. You're going to be smacked with a lot more fees than that. I mean, I've said this example on the podcast. I met a woman that studied architecture in the States, and her university bill now, her debt is like I want to say around $200,000 or something. I'm like, that's a huge amount of money to have smacked on your back just for a bit of education that you now have to pay off for the rest of your life.
It's ridiculous.
It's monstrous.
And you're subjecting it to people at the age of 18 before they can even fucking drink.
Yeah.
It's like, you could blackout drunk and shit yourself in your pants. That's not going to haunt you for 30 fucking years for the rest of your life. Yeah. Like, it's ridiculous. It's predatory. And it's something that I was very lucky to avoid, having been a youngest sibling, where I understood the cost of university going in. So I only applied to Ivy League schools and public universities. And I went with a public university because I was like, I'm not going to pay to go to a school that would give me like a medium education. I think the education is all the same, right? Like when I'm teaching biochemistry, I'm not like, oh, sorry, this is how much you get because you only paid $6,000 and then I cut it off. No, I mean, you teach the same material no matter what.
Yeah.
Where the costs are cut are in how stressed the teachers are if their teaching loads are a lot more, right? Where the costs are cut are like you might get less face time with your lecturer.
Yeah.
And that part is an unfortunate result. But the pro is that you get a damn good education for a very good price.
Yeah.
And it allows us like I would not be able to be a scientist comfortably had I gone to a private university.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's wild. I mean, I truly believe education should be free.
Yeah.
I think education and healthcare should be free.
Absolutely.
For everyone in every country. It should be a right.
Yeah.
You know, you're gonna then have tax-paying citizens for their whole working life, like throw a dog a bone at their start of life at least. Or I don't know. I also think everyone should be given a gap year, a paid gap year.
Yeah.
Like just to go straight into university when you finish school is crazy. I think people should just go like chuck a backpack on and go surfing for 1 year around and then just come back and then chill.
Yeah, or
and
even
get into it, you know,
because
you don't
work for a year, like do anything,
exactly,
like work at a bike shop, like do have real life experiences, or maybe like some programs in the U.S. universities will have like a co-op system where in the middle you take a year off and you have to work. You do, like, I think that is incredible. For me, I did my gap years after college where I just explored a bunch of different kinds of careers. I did it on my own dime and it was stressful. And I fully agree. I think that healthcare should be free, is a right. And I think that education similarly. But unfortunately, that's a radical idea in this country.
Well, it used to be free back in the day. You know, like I think my mum, when she went to teaching college, teaching university, she didn't pay for it. You know, there was, I don't think all university was free. There was some that weren't, but there was a lot of the humanitarian jobs like teaching and nursing and those sorts of jobs that were free. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's getting more bleak. And the economic side of it is terrible. Like university costs are increasing rapidly. The quality of education, I don't know what metrics there are to evaluate, like what are accurate metrics to evaluate that, but like one could argue it's not dramatically improving.
No.
And
also, the majority of people that I've met in this city that studied one thing aren't even doing that for their job.
Yeah.
So they've got this massive debt from, say, architecture, and they're not even working as an architect. It's
sure.
crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I studied economics. And
There you fucking go.
yeah, like I agree. And so, but there's all in the same vein, there's no reason why if you're interested in architecture, you shouldn't be able to study that,
Exactly.
to some degree.
Yeah.
So it's like maybe study it, get it for free, and then do your other thing, right?
Yeah.
Like you will just be like a better person for knowing more things regardless of what you do. Because that framework you can apply to a variety of different things.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, you can learn anything on the job.
Yeah.
You know, like I think like university is great for some people, but I did an apprenticeship where it was all on the tools learning. So I literally learnt by just working. And I mean, we learn a lot in the electrical trade. It's very technical. There's a lot of stuff you need to know. And we're a lot of us are idiots, but you learn, you know, like you learn. You just do and you learn from mentors. And
Totally.
So, I mean, there's a million ways to teach yourself something. And there's a million ways to, you know, inhale information and process information. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's I don't know.
Absolutely. And wait, so if you don't mind me asking, like, how did you find yourself doing the electrician kind of thing and moving up the management ranks that way?
It just took time.
Yeah.
It just took time. Like, and I would do like different roles. So I did apprenticeship doing housing. So all I did was houses. And then as soon as the day that I got my papers, I quit because I just hated my boss. My boss is fucking awful.
Damn.
He was such a cunt.
I'm so curious.
He was awful. He was bad from day one. Like he was a nightmare. And I probably in hindsight should have left, but I just always had it in my mind. I was like, you know what? However much pain I have to deal with, it's all going to be worth it if I get that piece of paper at the end of it. But on my very first day, I was sitting in a portable toilet, you know, like what you see when you go to events. I was sitting in there. It was like 9 o'clock. I was taking a dump, and then I'm sitting there, you know, and then all of a sudden, bang, 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 bang on the wall, and I was like, hello? And my boss is like, is that you, Cam? I was like, yeah. He's like, what do you think you're doing? And I'm like, I'm taking a shit, dude. He's like, well, next time you want to take a shit, you do it in your own time. You don't shit in my time. You hear me?
If you shit, you better have enough for the class. Save some for me. You better invite me next time. Or you're fucking out, Cam.
And so he was just a prick. You know, he counted dollars. Like if it was 5 cents, he'd be like, that's mine. That's mine. How dare you take that from me?
Venmo me for $1 and give me a chunk of shit when you're done. All right, better see proof.
I want that toilet paper back. But I did that, and then I worked in construction. Like I worked on an airplane, Qantas airplane hangar, like a big airplane hangar, and then went out to the mines for a little bit and worked in the UK.
The mines?
Yeah,
Holy fuck.
Did a bit in the like setting up mining camps. So it wasn't like mines.
Dude, this sounds like a fucking like a paper boy in the early 1900s. I'm like, what are you talking about? Wow, that's crazy.
Oh, that was fun. Then worked in the UK, lived there, working at King's Cross train station, doing maintenance there, and then I was back into the mines. I was in the oil and gas and the coal fields. And then back into construction, I got into foreman roles, and then got into supervisor role there. And then I left that and got back on the tools again. And then in the last year, I was working as a estimator, supervisor for one of my friend's businesses. So I jumped around a lot in different roles.
Yeah.
And I'm a curious guy. I just like doing different things. I get bored if I'm just doing the same thing all the time.
Yeah.
But, you know, and I've also been always, I was also very money hungry. So I would just take the jobs that I would do a year or two at a place. And if there was a job that was paying significantly more, I would just take that.
Wow. That's all. I mean, good for you, man.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, why not?
That's incredible.
Life's easier when you're making more money. You know
for sure. Because we're doing comedy.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I got to get a job now. Like I just started doing a little bit of electrical work again. I'm just doing a bit I'm doing a bit at Broadway Comedy Club.
Yeah. Sick.
And doing a bit just for some friends. But yeah, dude.
Dude, I mean, the production angle is pretty huge. You can get involved in like bigger productions and help out with like
Yeah.
those kinds of things?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I want to do too much electrical work here. Also, the hours aren't really good for comedy because like a lot of the nights I'm not getting home till like 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning. Especially Broadway put me on quite a lot of late night spots, and so I'm not getting home till 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
And construction, you typically start at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock. It's like, well, how the hell am I supposed to go home and get 3 hours sleep and go to work?
sure.
So I don't really know where I fit in right now and what to do, but I'm heading home next Tuesday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, going back home for like 3 weeks. So I've just been sort of putting it on hold until I get back, and I'm like, all right, once I get back, I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah. Dude, well, good luck to you. I mean,
Thanks,
you've had this
man.
much flexibility
It's been great
until now. And
Yeah,
that's an incredible.
I'm so glad I've been able to do this. I've been able to like put the foot down with comedy, put the foot down with this podcast. Like, it's been awesome.
Yeah,
Been
dude.
able
I mean, it's all about calculated risks, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, dude, you're fucking doing it. That's incredible.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah, very cool.
So, big achievement to you and Nico.
Oh,
you guys
thank
are doing shock therapy.
Yeah.
Now, explain to everyone what shock therapy is.
Yeah, so Shock Therapy is a comedy show that my buddy Nico DeGaio and I put on. He's a PT, and he uses these electrical stim pads for his work. They stimulate your muscles, and we put them on comedians while they do stand-up, and we shock them. And I will say we are playing around with the formula a little bit, because, you know, it's after a show, it might be fun and entertaining, but after a show when the comic's like, ow, and I bombed. It's tough.
Yeah.
tough.
Didn't Mike Minari, when you shock him the other night, he gave himself a nosebleed? He hit himself in the nose with a beer?
That I was unaware of. I know Peter hit himself with a beer.
It might have been Peter. I thought it was Mike though.
It very well could have been Mike.
Yeah.
I don't know. Good to know. Maybe censor that part. Mike was awesome. He really helped out a lot with the show, and he's a great comic too.
Yeah, he's funny. He's funny. It's amazing what everyone's doing. Like, everyone's doing different stuff. Like, there's guys that are doing like my friend Alphonse, he's doing hot chip comedy.
Oh yeah, that I know about.
Where they're putting the hot sauce, like the death sauce, on a chip and making someone eat it and do comedy. I mean, it's kind of fucked up what we're all doing, like, but it's funny. You know, we're like pushing the boundaries of what's possible. And Nico described it like, he's like, it's like gladiators. You know, it's like you want to see these guys in their like rawest form trying to do their art, but like under immense stress.
Totally. And it just kind of shows you how much we really love it. It's like, we'll hurt ourselves. We're also losing money potentially. Yeah. Like, you really just do it for stage. Like, you do it for the love of the game and for like the community. And also, like, it's tremendously satisfying to be able to give stage time to other comics too.
Yeah.
And to be able to give them like a platform to do stand up is incredible.
Yeah.
So the producing angle was something that I kind of avoided for my first year. And I'm like 3.5 years into stand-up. The producing angle is something I've taken on more recently, because I think for a while, frankly, I was just a little scared. I was just kind of pussyfooting around it for a little while, and now, you know, the only way onwards is through. So
it's a lot of work. I haven't delved into that yet. I don't know if I will, because I'm doing this, but I think it's good that people are doing something.
For sure. And like, look, there's so many comedians who, once they've made it through the other end, like they'll be like, oh, remember that show we used to produce? Or like, you know, I mean, even like the Come Town guys, like Adam Friedland still produces his show in Brooklyn, you know, every week. So like, yeah, like it's, you just do it because you like doing it and because it helps you get better, without necessarily the thought process of what will come about directly from this show.
You just never know.
Yeah. Just keep on playing around with it.
Yeah.
So it's been an absolute like delight as like another ball to juggle while I'm like on this journey. It does terrify me, the prospect that one of my students might show up do a comedy show. It actually has happened before.
Really?
It was a student who had already taken my class, and well, I'm 26. I teach college level biochem, and at the time, I think I was like 24, and I still had this same job. I've had this job since I was 23, which is kind of crazy. And so the student had just taken the class with me, and well, it was at like a bar nearby, like a back room where we do shock therapy. And everyone's kind of, it's not a hot show. it's kind of a tough show, and I'm closing it out, and I go up, and I'm like noticing in the front row, I'm like, holy shit, Albert? And I'm not using his real name. And then I was like, oh fuck, okay. And and he was like heckling me, and I was like,
Really?
Yeah,
That's insane.
I'm just kind of funny. I didn't pay any mind. You
Funny.
know, it was just fun.
Fucking Albert.
I just went in on it. No. I did do a little bit of that. And afterwards, I was like, we'll see how this goes. And he's like, dude, I loved it. And I was like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God.
I mean, really, who gives a fuck if your students see you? Like, I mean, I know it's like, I get it because you're edgy. That's the problem. You're very edgy.
Yeah. I am a bit on the edgier side stand-up wise. And
but it's clever. It's intelligent edgy. You know, you dance the line really well.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean,
you're not just jabbing. You're like dancing and going for a jab. So it's nice.
Well, I think, again, it's about the challenge, right? Like, it's about the challenge of like conveying a new idea and it's about the challenge, just conveying an interesting, new, funny idea and getting people who you'd never expect to laugh about it. I think that to me is why I'm kind of drawn to like edgier or darker humor in particular. I also, it's just more concurrent with like how I am as a person.
Yeah.
So it's just reconciling those two things is something that's a little bit tough. But yeah, like it's just part of like who I am for now. I mean, in my set, I talk about I'm like Hannah Montana, but like with autism. It's just like what it's like dual life, but like at some point, I hope they'll kind of like merge a little bit.
Of course. Yeah, I think that's the beauty of comedy is like you're trying to express the truth or not. But I guess in the sense of what I'm finding with comedy is it's like I'm trying to become more who I am on stage, like more authentic to me. And that is the pursuit that I'm going for, and it's quite beautiful. It's very challenging and difficult, but it's
no, totally. And speaking to my own experiences as someone in my like mid-20s, it's like beyond who I am on stage and representing myself on stage. It's also like I'm having this ongoing conversation of like, who am I as an adult, and how does that translate to my things on? So as I'm finding my persona on stage, I'm also finding my persona off stage. So it's like, I think those two processes in tandem, whether it's good or bad, we'll see. But it's
can't
fun.
be bad.
Yeah. Well, it could. Well, it could. Man, in 5 years, I'm just like 5 foot tall with like, just like bald as fuck talking about anti-vax.
Well, if you keep shocking yourself, maybe you will.
Jamie, pull that
up. Have you done it with the pads yourself?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I put it on myself. Yeah, when I do it. Yeah.
What's it like when it's turned right up? Can you perform?
Oh yeah, and we fluctuate a little bit with it. So like there's some levels where you're just kind of like gritting your teeth and doing it, and then there's other ones where it's like I really can't think, and I'll be like sweating on stage.
Wow.
Even last night I think I was like doing like slave spirituals at one point. I'm like oh. I couldn't handle it.
Damn.
Yeah. And my jokes weren't even working, and then I was like, I think I'm gonna stop doing this.
Now, what are the audience? What's the audience reaction when they're seeing people get shocked? Are they enjoying it?
No, confusion, terror. Some of them are enjoying it. Yeah. But funnily
you can really see who the sadistic people are, can't you?
Well, like, funnily enough, we'll have like 20 to 30 comedians just show up to watch, and the comedians are dying.
Wow. Yeah, I can imagine.
He's like, I want to see this motherfucker get in pain for years.
Yeah. I hate that motherfucker. Turn it up.
Yeah. So the comedians are dying. The audience is like, are they okay? So we're working with the formula, but it's a lot of fun, and the audience is enjoying it too. But the comedians love it.
I don't doubt that for 1 second. Yeah, it's so wild, man.
Yeah.
It is a wild idea. Ah, damn. I don't know. I don't know if it's for me yet.
No,
I need to come and watch.
I mean,
one.
look, whenever you're ready, let me know.
Yeah.
Like we'll get you up, man.
Yeah, I'll come and watch one, but I will one day.
Yeah, I mean, like, what? Like, it's just like
exactly.
the stage time. But me and Nico are a little afraid of like Pavloving ourselves into like hating stand up. Like every time we go up, we're gonna like be afraid that we're gonna get shocked or something. Like, what's the shock?
PTSD.
It's like classical conditioning.
Oh, that's fucking wild, man.
Yeah.
Well, dude, it's been a pleasure getting to know you. I'm really glad you came on the pod.
Dude, me too. Thank you for pushing me to do this, man. I mean, you know, I'm always a little bit, I'm just a trepidatious person, but this is outside of my comfort zone and something I'm very glad to have the opportunity to do. So thank you again for having me on, man.
Yeah, we're going to do plenty more.
Yeah, dude, we love that.
Now, do you want to give everyone your socials?
Oh, yeah. At Nibras, Nibras_whole on Instagram.
Nice.
Nibras_whole on Instagram. The Shock Therapy is at Shock Therapy Comedy.
Nice. And if you're one of Nibras' students, follow him.
Please don't. I will roast you in a set. I guarantee. My best material is from roasting you. That's right.
Oh, man, thanks very much. It's been a pleasure.
Dude, thank you, man.
See you in the next one, guys. Hey guys, thanks for listening to this episode of Going After It with Cam Bird. Produced by Cam Bird. Podcast edited by Cowpit. Music by Brian Rigby. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe. And if you can, get after it.